Should you buy vinyl records online or in person? Watch this video to find out. Hey guys, and welcome back to Matthew Vinyl. And in today's video, we're going to talk about, is buying vinyl better in person or online? So, of course, this video is going to be quite opinionated. Of course, everyone's opinion is different. So don't take what I say with, this is what you have to do. This is just my advice and my opinion. You know, you do your collecting the way you want to do your collecting. I'm not going to tell anybody to do what I think they should do. I'm just going to tell you my thoughts, and maybe you might learn mine, or maybe you'll disagree. But let's get into the video. So we're going to start with buying vinyls online. So now there's many ways to buy vinyl records online. Personally, I purchase my records from Discogs and eBay, and sometimes I do buy some records from Amazon. Now of course there are many other places to buy records from as well, but I'm going to be talking about Amazon, eBay and Discogs. Starting with Discogs. Now I've been a member of Discogs since October 2020. The first ever records I purchased on Discogs were all international. As you can see, my first one was from Canada and the other one was from Germany. Now if you're just starting to get into records, I would recommend buying from your own country. For my case, I'm from the United Kingdom, so I would buy my records from Britain first. Of course, when you get used to buying records, I would start doing them online. But you've got to bear in mind, of course, you will have to pay more money for postage and for customs. And of course, Discogs is a very easy place to use. You can use the app or you can use the website. In my preference, I prefer using the website. Now, of course, when you find a record you would like to buy on Discogs, there's many things to do. You can filter it by country and filter it by condition. When you add to your cart, you can check out and you can send money by either credit card or by PayPal. I would recommend using PayPal. Scams on Discogs can of course happen like anywhere else online. In my experience, I've only been scammed one time on Discogs and it hasn't happened since. When you are going to purchase a record or records from a seller on Discogs, always check the seller feedback. If they have 100%, then that's great. But you also got to remember, some Discog sellers might have 90% or maybe even 95%. It's always best to look at the reviews on positive, neutral and negative, but remember, always check the reviews, you don't want to risk anything. Now another thing to remember on Discogs too, of course, since you are purchasing records online, there will be a chance the record or records could be lost in the post. This has only happened to me on one occasion. I did have an order on Discogs and unfortunately the parcel was lost. I did get a refund though, which in most cases you will definitely get your refund back. But you also got to remember, this will not be the seller's fault. Of course, this is up to the postal service. There is a chance that your records could be destroyed or damaged in transit. Now, in my experience, this has never happened to me before, so thankfully it hasn't happened to me, but it could happen to you. Remember, this is very unlikely as the postal service are usually quite good in my country anyways. So bear in mind that your parcel may be lost or damaged, but remember, this could be like a 10% chance. Most sellers I have experience with have always packaged my records in strong mailers and with no damages from the seller's point of view. Some sellers overpack, some sellers underpack. In my opinion, if the record comes fine, I'm not too bothered. But if I was to buy a record on Discogs and the seller packaged it awfully, of course, you've got an issue there. Of course, on Discogs, you cannot see the record that the seller is currently selling unless you send a message asking for photographs. That is a downside of Discogs, of course, but most of the time, you don't really need to ask unless you are buying a rare or valuable record. Sellers in Discogs will also put a description of the record and you can see the condition of the sleeve and the disc. But most Discogs sellers I have experience with have always been top class and I've never had any real issues. Now, the next part of the video is going to be on eBay. Of course, all you guys are familiar with eBay, and as you know, some people do get scammed on eBay. However, in my experience, I have never once been scammed from eBay. I haven't purchased as many records as I have on Discogs, but I have bought quite a few from eBay. And another thing to bear in mind again, it could get lost in the post, or it could even get damaged. But in my experience on eBay, I've never had any of that. Of course, on eBay, there's two ways to buy. Of course, you can either bid or you can buy it now. Of course, no matter what you get it from, you will 99% of the time get a good deal. The main thing about eBay, of course, is that you can see the images. Of course, the sellers will add images of the record. Some will put very detailed photographs and others will put very less detailed photographs. but most of the time you can see clearly how the condition is of the record. So in my opinion, from those two, from eBay and Discogs, I would recommend both. To me, they're both quite good. Now we're going to move on to Amazon. Now in my experience, I haven't ordered many records from Amazon. I did order my first few records on Amazon when I first started collecting vinyl records back in 2020. Of course, on Amazon, 98% of the time, all the records you purchase on there will be new presses, no matter if it's a new artist or an old artist. Of course, some private sellers can sell original and used vinyl on Amazon. For example, I did once buy a 45 single from the 60s on Amazon. But as I say, about 98% of the time, all the vinyl you buy on Amazon will be new. Sometimes Amazon can have overpriced records, and other times they could be reasonably priced. But again, one week a record could be £29, and the next week it could be £15. Just depends on the artist and the record. If you're just starting to get into records, Amazon could be a good way to start, as depending on the artist, you can get a cheap record, or you can get an expensive record. It's a mixed match, but it's whatever you prefer. Of course, the best way to buy turntables is on Amazon, and sometimes in new record shops. But when you're buying turntables, just remember, some of them are not the best quality. For example, my first turntable was a suitcase player, and it was terrible. Since then, I bought a different one, and it still wasn't great. I currently now own an Audio-Technica LP160, and it is fantastic. If your music taste, like mine, is mainly 50s, 60s, 70s, or even 80s, I do recommend buying your vinyl online on eBay and Discogs. If you don't like used vinyl, then Amazon is the best place to go. As I say, most of the vinyl you will find on Amazon are new pressings. But again, it's all your opinion, it's what you want to do. Discogs, eBay, Amazon, Rough Trade, anywhere, it's up to what you want. And if you're American, Walmart or Target, I'm assuming you can buy records on there as well. Now, for the next part of this video, we'll be talking about in-person purchasing. Now, there are many ways to buy vinyl records in person. The best way, in my opinion, is to purchase them at your local record shop. I currently live in North East England, and in my experience, there was no record shops in my local area apart from the nearby city of Newcastle. In Newcastle, there are plenty of record shops like Vinyl Guru and RPM Music are my favourites. Of course, in some record shops they have new and pre-owned. It just depends on which shop is selling what. Now, my experience, as I mentioned, I could only go to Newcastle for vinyl until 2022. In 2022, a local record shop opened in my town. I never would go to Newcastle often. I would mainly buy my records on Discogs and eBay, but until the shop opened, it changed for me. I still bought lots of records on Discogs and occasionally on eBay, but I haven't bought many records in the past year online. I still have, but just not many. I prefer going to my local record shop. Each record shop in any location is going to be different on pricing, on quantity, and what they sell. Again, some record shops sell just new, some record shops sell just old, and some record shops sell both. The one in my local town sells mainly just old vintage vinyl, which is perfect for me because, as I say, my favourite taste of music is the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. And the record shop that I go to is called Time Warp Sounds, and if you're in the northeast of England, I highly recommend you going. But anyways, back to the video. So, apart from record shops, of course, there are charity shops too. Now, in a charity shop, as you know, it's donated items by people. It could be clothing, it could be cutlery, it could be films, it could be anything. And of course, 9 times out of 10, when you walk into a charity shop, you will find second-hand vinyl. In my experience, I have never once seen a brand new pressed vinyl in a charity shop. You will always see vintage vinyl. If you've ever seen a new pressing in a charity shop, please let me know. Most of these charity shops you will find LPs, but some of them do have 45 singles and EPs as well. The decades of the records will vary. Some of them will be from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and you will find a few from the 1990s. Again, for each charity shop, it's going to be different. Some charity shops will sell just classical stuff, others will put pop or maybe even rock in it. It all depends on what they sell. I do go to charity shops every few weeks to find some records, and for me, because my taste, as I mentioned, it's on the 50s and 60s, it's quite easy for me to find some stuff. It's always hit and miss when you go to a charity shop. It just depends on what your music taste is, and if there's nothing there, don't feel bad. You got plenty of options to buy records. Now, another place to buy vinyl records in person are record fairs. Now, record fairs may not happen in your area, it just all depends. If you have no idea, just Google online record fairs near me, or maybe even try Facebook. I've only attended one record fair in my life, and I got a few singles. Now, bear in mind, some record fairs do have records for quite expensive. Again, it depends what the artist is and what the pressing is, but in my experience, when I was there, most of the records there were quite pricey. As I say, I've only been there once, so I can't comment on too much experience, but I was able to get a few singles, as I mentioned, when I went on my only one. Some record fairs will have entry fees. For example, when I went, I had to pay £2 for an entry fee. Now, another way to get records in person, which personally I have not done yet, but that is car boot sales. Of course, you could find anything. You could find great stuff, you could find poor stuff. It all depends on what that seller is selling. Again, those prices could be high, those prices could be low. It all depends on the seller. As I said, I have not had any experience going to a car boot sale before. Maybe one day in the future I will, but as of now, I haven't. But you could even inherit records. For example, I inherited some records from my grandparents, and I also was given some collections. Again, this all depends. So don't count on this one, but always ask your relatives to see if they've got any records left behind. This could be a great way to start your collection if you're just starting out, and even if you have been collecting for years, it can add some more music to your collection. Of course, if some of it is not your taste, you can even sell it on. Great ways to sell records online as well are on Discogs, eBay, and to your local record shop. But bear in mind, your local record shop will give you less money because of course they need to make some profit on it. If you do want a video of me telling you tips on how to sell records and you want to see that video, just drop it in the comments. Another place to buy records in person is of course HMV in Britain, or Target, or Walmart in America. In my opinion, I'm not too fond of buying records from HMV. In my opinion, I think each HMV is quite aesthetically pleasing. I like the way they all look, and I like the way new vinyl looks. However, the prices can be quite steep. Again, if you are only into modern music, it can be more expensive to collect vinyl records. But if you are like me and prefer older music, it can be easier. Of course, new pressings of old music are no different. They can be expensive too. And of course, there are original records that are very pricey as well, but for the most part, in my experience, most of my collection is original, and I got them for not that much money. I do own a music collection of 3,000 items that includes vinyl, CDs and cassettes. Of course, my main hobby is vinyl records, and 95% of my collection of vinyl is original. 5% of it is new. Again, don't think that what I'm saying is what you have to do. You collect your records the way you want to collect them, and you buy them where you want to buy them from. This is just my advice and in my experience, and I thought I'd share my thoughts on it. Now, in my personal opinion, I think the best way to buy a record is both. It's always great to support your local record shop and to buy online as well. Of course, I do still buy some records online, but not as often. So in my final opinion, you should buy records from both online and in person. If you want to see any videos on a deep dive of eBay or Discogs for vinyl, just put them in the comments and I'll make that video. If there's any suggestions of any video you guys want, please drop them in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been Matthew Vinyl. Please like, subscribe, and peace.